Listen, these Friends of Earth people who believe you've got on in a minute, they're not friends of the working class people in places like Cumbria. Let's get this coal out. Let's stop being silly.
That's nonsense. We are definitely friends of the working class.
Britain will have its first new coal mine in 30 years. The announcement of the new mine at Whitehaven in Cumbria came only a year after the COP26 president, Alok Sharma, said he wanted to consign coal to history. Let's hear from both sides of the argument on this. In a minute, we'll speak to Tony Bosworth from Friends of the Earth. But first, to Lee Anderson, the Conservative MP for Ashfield, who is pro this mine. Good morning to you, Lee.
Good morning, sir.
Alok Sharma, one of your colleagues, has called this a backward step. Why is he wrong, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's a backward step. I think it's a forward step. I mean, look, we're currently importing about 4.5, 4.6 million tonnes of coal a year into this country. I believe that amount has actually shot up by 44% in the second quarter of this year. We're importing more coal. The world is producing more coal than ever before. So, to suggest it's a backward step, in my opinion, is a little bit nonsensical. Look, this is metallurgical coal. It's not thermal coal. It's not going to power stations. It's not being used to make to generate electricity. It will be used to make steel and cement, and we need steel and cement. We need that all over the world. We need it in the UK. We're going through an infrastructure boom, and we will be. We've got lots of infrastructure projects. Why not? If we're going to make British steel, why not try and use British coal to make the brilliant British steel, which will drive our economy forward? And not only that, if it stops us importing stuff, it will create millions and millions of pounds for our treasury. It's got to be a win-win. And I tell you what, the people in Cumbria in this area are emailing me already to say they're absolutely delighted with the news of this new coal mine, which will pour millions into the local economy.
But what if we don't use it for UK steel? That seems to be a problem here, potentially. Alok Sharma says 85% of coal produced will be for export, not for domestic use. We know already that British steel won't be using it because it's got the wrong type of sulphur.
No, that's nonsense, Stig. Let me come back here. That's absolute nonsense. Steel, when you're making steel, and you're using coal, the coal is often blended to get the mix right. So if a particular coal is of a high sulfur content, then they will blend it. And I believe this is what will happen with this coal. It will be blended with other coals. But the key issue here for me is we will not be importing as much coal from all around the world, from countries that have got far worse safety records than British mining. And I think this is coming on tankers, pumping goodness knows what into the atmosphere around the world. This net zero journey we're on, it's not just a UK project, it's a world project. The atmosphere doesn't stop on our coastline. And if we can dig our own coal out of the ground in a green and friendly way, which I believe this coal mine will do, rather than import it from thousands of miles away, surely anybody with an ounce of common sense could see that's the right thing to do.
What happens, though, Leanna, do you accept, though, that your argument falls is if after we've done this, 85%, as Alok Sharma says, goes for export, we end up exporting this coal to other parts of the world, do you accept that your argument falls then?
No, not at all. This coal mine will be the greenest coal mine in the world. The mine owners have stated that, I believe them. If we can have the greenest coal mine in the world with the greenest technology, to get fossil fuels out of the ground, and surely that is a lesson and a gift to the rest of the world. Who can argue against that?
Well, the government's own climate advisor argues against that. He says that precisely that we are sending the wrong message. He actually said his direct quote from his Lord
The wrong message to which people, Steve? It might be the wrong message to your eco warriors, your Friends of the Earth, and this group of people. Listen, these Friends of Earth people who believe you've got on in a minute, they're not friends of the working class people in places like Cumbria. Let's get this coal out. Let's stop being silly and realise that we've got a valuable resource under our feet that can make great British steel and drive this economy forward.
Lee Anderson, thank you very much. Let's put that to Friends of the Earth, because we're going to speak to them now. As you say, that's Lee Anderson, the Conservative MP there for Ashfield. Friends of the Earth are indeed here. Tony Bosworth joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're Friends of the Earth, but not Friends of the working class.
That's nonsense. We are definitely friends of the working class. People in Cumbria do desperately want jobs, but we think that investing in a new coal mine to create jobs is completely the wrong way forward. What the local people in Cumbria are concerned about, a lot of them, I imagine, is their energy bills. And you can create just as many jobs as you would from the mine, from a proper programme to invest in energy efficiency and insulating people's homes. That would create as many jobs as the mine in West Cumbria, and it would save tens of thousands of households hundreds of pounds a year in their energy bills. That's the real way to create jobs. That's a real way to help people in West Cumbria.
What about Lee Anderson's sort of pragmatism point, which seems to boil down to the fact that people need steel, coke is used in the steel process. And if this mine didn't exist, the same amount of coke would have to be mined somewhere. And the argument from Michael Gove, who's approved this mine, is that ultimately this is broadly carbon neutral, because in the world, a certain amount of steel is going to be produced using a certain amount of coke. And ultimately, whether it's produced here or elsewhere, the contribution to the global issue of climate change is exactly the same.
We definitely need steel. Nobody's doubting that, but we don't need coal to make steel. Already in the mainland Europe, the main market for this coal, for the coal from this mine, steelmakers are signalling they're moving fast away from coal use. They want to get to green steel production, and so the market for the coal from the mine is declining before it's even opened. Only a small percentage of the coal from the mine, as you've said, will potentially be used in the UK. And despite what Lee Anderson says, both British Steel and Tata, the other firm who could potentially use the coal, are signaling they want to move away from the coal use. They want to move to green steel. They're asking for government support to move to green production. So the market for the mine's coal is in real doubt before the mine has even opened, and that casts a shadow over the long-term future of the jobs as well.
Do you accept the argument there is a sort of holier-than-thou perspective, a British perspective on this subject? We're really happy, it seems to me, as a country, for other countries like China to do the dirty stuff, which we then make use of. We trumpet our green credentials, and then we get the stuff that really damages the environment from China. Is it not more honest to say we actually believe in the short term we need a certain amount of coke to produce a certain amount of steel, and it's actually better if we take responsibility for that rather than putting it out of sight and out of mind and getting it from a place like China?
We absolutely need to be producing the steel which we use. We need to be producing British steel. But the steel industry themselves have said we face a binary choice. Either we decarbonize the steel sector or we don't have a steel sector. And so the only way forward, if we want to do our bit, is to decarbonize the steel sector and ensure that British steel remains competitive. And this decision will do nothing for the UK's global standing on climate change. We're telling other people that we need to, as you've said, we're telling other people that we need to be seeing the end of coal, but we're opening a new coal mine ourselves. In the future, British climate diplomacy is going to be a case of do as we say, not as we do.
But there's a transition period, isn't it, I suppose, that people would say, you know what, that's right, we want to get decarbonised steel industry, we want to get decarbonised anything industry, but there's a period in which we have to use fossil fuels, and this contributes to that, but no more.
But the steel makers who would be the market for this mine's coal, they're decarbonising fast. They're moving away from coal by the end of this decade or by the mid-2030s. So that's how fast the market is declining. There isn't really, we can't afford a transition period. And this, what we need is to be moving fast away from coal use. That's got to be the way forward for decarbonisation, for the future of the British steel industry, and the best way to create jobs in West Cumbria.
Really interesting. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's Tony Bosworth there from Friends of the Earth, and you heard before him Lee Anderson there, the Conservative MP for Ashfield, really setting out the opposing arguments on that coal mine.